Broadcasting from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Welcome to The Gailey Show, the only daily LGBTQ radio news and talk show in the United States. I am your host, John Parker. My executive producer, Jim Pounds, is here with me in the studio today. Coming up after us, you can catch up with the latest progressive news, headlines, and analysis with Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820 and the Matt McNeil Show on AM 950 Radio. For us today, it's Friday, and we devote Fridays to LGBTQ culture and entertainment for a number of reasons, one of which is that LGBTQ writers, filmmakers, and artists are one of the most censored groups and artists in the United States, and we need their work, and we intend to lift it all up from the campy to the epic historical period dramas. So what is on the show today? Eli Clare's new book, Unfurl, is out September 16th. In the second half hour of the show, Eli will join us to talk about this queer, disabled love song that explores the pulsing core and porous edges of survival, sorrow, and dreaming. But up first, Only Ugly Guys runs at Gremlin Theater in St. Paul, Minnesota from September 11th through the 27th. Its playwright is Kurt Ing. Kurt is a Minneapolis-based theater producer. He produced, adapted, and directed Naive, Super, at Norway House in September 2023. He hosts Running Errands, which is a short play incubator for writers, directors, actors to experiment with new ideas at the Hive Collaborative. He has worked on stage at many theaters, including the Guthrie Theater, Theater La De Da, and Children's Theater Company. He has received grants from Tri-M Foundation, Metropolitan Regional Arts Council, and the Minnesota State Arts Board, rather. Hey, Kurt, welcome to The Gailey Show.
Thank you for having me. I feel the radio is so cozy to me, and I listen to so many podcasts, so I feel like I'm in a dream right now.
Oh, this will be a very dreamy
sequence. Very dreamy.
Well, I'm very happy to have you here because Only Ugly Guys is coming off a very well-reviewed run at Open Eye Theater earlier this year. Tell us about the show.
The show was actually last year at Open Eye, last June. And it feels like time has been impacted, and it does feel like it was just last summer. So the play I describe as an anti-rom-com for the guy inside all of us. So you've heard of a love triangle. This is a love square. So there are four guys, each chasing after the other, sort of a dog chasing a cat, chasing the mouse, chasing the cheese, and the cheese is chasing the dog somehow. And it's about, I just was looking at every rom-com that I watch, and it's some woman who works, at an editing job at a fancy magazine, and there's three beautiful men who she's chasing after. It's this very Jane Austen kind of style. Do I choose the rich guy or the poor guy or the guy my family wants? And I just feel like dating is so much more chaotic than that. It's like, you are the one, no one's chasing after you. You are the one chasing after people who are not interested in you, or are just mean, or are weird, or you are weird in all of your ways. And the show takes place now in 2025, and it actually starts in June of 2025, and it goes until summer of 2026. So I'm writing into the future, and last year the production started in 2024 and it went into 2025. So I think any time that I do the play, it will be writing about right now and making some edits. And it's also about this liminal, odd, relationship that we have with technology as well. So you can have a relationship with someone online that you are in love with and you know everything about them, but they've never met you. And so there's the weird relationships in person, and then also the weird relationships in the online world.
Mm-hmm. So did you, because it's a year later, and I apologize for getting that fact wrong, how much of it did you get to change then based off of the original run, if anything?
I changed a lot.
Because there's a different president I don't know if you know. So there's a different president, and we now live in fascism.
Yeah.
Or maybe we all live in queer fascism again, depending on how you look at history in this country. So I'm curious then, as you're talking about, kind of speculating into the future, how the show has changed without giving any spoilers, I guess, for this run here at Gremlin Theater.
So the play just feels like it's gotten more rebellious and more immature and crazier, which is kind of how I feel a year later and like under a Trump presidency. And I think I'm seeing that a lot in the world too. More people just wanting to party and have fun and use that as a way of rebelling under a very scary political time. So I'm thinking of writing this play, I'm thinking of queer liberation. And when someone comes out, how far out do they go? I think there's this big celebration of coming out day, but then most media that I see about gay men specifically is either two beautiful guys in, I don't know, the 60s, 70s, later half of the 20th century, and they're being restricted by, the world, the times that they live in. Or it's about it's like a wealthy kid coming out in high school or college, or it's about AIDS. All of these things are great, but I think about queer birth, coming out, and queer death, either someone dying of bullying, hate crime, AIDS, and there's this whole lifespan in between. And so my goal with this play is to write about a chunk of that. And what this play specifically is about is mainly a summer of these four friends who aren't really destined to be friends forever, or maybe they're somehow tied, but it's the summer where they're really close friends just because they have to be, or they need something out of this relationship, and then they sort of scatter to the wind. I never bring up Trump. I'm trying to think of I don't think I bring it up in the play, but I do bring up, and this was actually something in the production last year, was one of the characters has a large medical bill, and he uses activism in a very devious way to get that medical bill covered. So it's not something, he is not attacking anyone. There is no violence. Right. It's actually like a very loving way of doing something. And he's going after all of these insurance companies. And one of the insurance companies is United Healthcare Group. And this is something that I wrote before Luigi Mangione shot the CEO.
Yeah.
So this is something that I was thinking of like, how do we have activism against insurance companies that isn't violent? So that was wild to do the show in June, and then December of last year for that to happen. So that is still in the play, but now they have a realization of, we're going after healthcare companies. Are we going to be attacked? How is that looked at? Yeah.
We are talking with Kurt Ng, playwright of Only Ugly Guys, which runs at the Gremlin Theater in St. Paul, Minnesota, September 11th through the 27th. Jim, you have a question for Kurt.
Is the director of this production the same as the director at Open Eye, or?
Yeah. Grant Sorensen is my friend, my longtime friend and director. And really, we grew up in the Twin Cities together, child actors since, we were like 6 years old. And so we've had these parallel lives, and both were actors turned director, producers. And we never really worked on a project together. And so this started for me 2022 of writing this just so that I had a reason to hire Grant and be my director for this. He is going to be working on a opera in Boston. He just graduated from Boston University. And so he is away today at some creative meetings there today and tomorrow for Boston University.
That's fantastic.
He and I were in the Trials of Oscar Wilde for Walking Shadow. It was several years ago, but
amazing. Grant knows everyone. That's a very useful tool to have as a director.
Yep, absolutely.
6 degrees of Grant. There's a question that was in the release that I thought was very interesting that you feel Only Ugly Guys is addressing, which is when you have access to anything, what do you really want? How did you write that? How did you write the various answers to that in the characters?
Yeah. So when you have access to everything, that's what I'm thinking of when we get so much delivered to us, just like from your phone. You can almost get anything to come to your house.
Mm-hmm.
And so dating and finding these, huge things that are sort of trivialized, huge things, love, belonging, intimacy, like sexual fulfillment, selfhood, identity, are things that you have to go out and find on your own. You can't order those and have a driver come deliver them. And so I think of each character having a breaking point where they either extend beyond what they think they can do, or they retreat into their self or something that's comfortable or familiar to them. And for each character, I think a lot about, you're flagging me. Do I need to stop talking?
I have to fit in a break here.
Yeah.
But before we do, we're going to have more with Kurt after this break. But before we head there, I want to share about our travel partner, Travel Marquette. And the reason why is that Marquette, Michigan has become a very special place for me. For the past 10 years, I have been going to Marquette at least once a year, usually twice a year. And part of the reason is that I love traveling there because I don't have to worry about being queer while traveling. It's a university town. It is a super blue city and a reliably blue county, and has a very active pride organization. Marquette has become so many things for me, for what I need from a long getaway. Good restaurants, of course, excellent bookstores, a must, relaxing hiking and time out in nature, and delicious bakeries, obviously a bonus. And I've already been there once this year for Pride, and I'm heading back there this fall. I've been very grateful to be in partnership with Travel Marquette because the world sucks right now, and it's so nice to just get in the car and drive up to a place where I can be myself. If that is something that you would like to do, you can get started at travelmarquette.com to start your journey. More with Kurt Ing after the break. Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I am John Parker. We are already coming up on the bottom of the hour. Opening on Thursday, September 11th at Gremlin Theater in St. Paul, Minnesota, playwright Kurt Ing's Only Ugly Guys will run through September 27th. We're talking with Kurt all about it. Kurt, before the break, you were talking about how the characters, the 4 characters in the show, are responding to this main question driving the play, which is, when you have access to anything, what do you really want? You want to pick it up from there?
Yeah. So I think a lot of things about, access, identity, selfhood that we see, I think, especially as queer people, and especially in this play, specifically gay men, is you look at your idols or sort of these images that are given to you. And so each character has come out at a different time. Most of them are late 20s, or 2 of them are late 20s. One is mid 30s and another one is 22. And so they all have these different relationships to queerness, to masculinity, to femininity. And so I think of each of sort of their like divas or their like idols that they look to. And so Adam, these are the characters in the play. Adam is sort of like Judy Garland, old movies. Brad has looked up to cowboys and Men's Health magazine. Cyprian has a child of TikTok and Instagram and Reddit. And Dean is like, has watched porn his whole life. And so these are like the people that they are looking up to. And I kind of feel like when you come out as gay, you sort of get put into a baseball card, and it's like, you're this type of gay guy. And I wanted to see if they could extend beyond the personas that they've boxed themselves into.
Mm-hmm. Part of the show is described as, in the descriptions that I've read about it, how do you navigate this quote non-committal algorithm-fueled culture? As I was thinking about that in preparation for our conversation today, how do you write a play for today in a non-committal algorithm-fueled culture? Because you're talking about also in the descriptions of the show and the reviews about being experimental with theater and trying out new things with this particular show. So talk to us about your process of writing for folks that are on their phones all the time and are being force-fed the algorithm.
Yeah, I think the algorithm leads us to... So I was in this amazing class in college called Rehumanizing Technology. And so it's about how technology does not change us. We use technology and we use it in the ways that we want to. You know, if someone is a bigot in person, they're probably going to be a bigot online, and it might even just amplify that. And so what I'm talking about when it's non-committal is we can kind of, you can text someone now and go, oh, I'm going to be late, or I'm not going to show up. And it's sort of like, you don't have to go stand by a payphone and wait for your friend. And then 15 minutes later, I guess they're not coming. We'll go to the restaurant without them. So it's like, people kind of get to do whatever they want now. Like, that's the culture. It comes with dating too, of you can be talking to someone online for weeks and then, actually can reschedule, happens an hour before a date. And so how do you build a friendship? How do you build a relationship in a age where the algorithm is feeling like this is who you should go after, and then technology is saying like you can cancel plans whenever you want?
You're reminding me of a time when I was broke and I was living in Michigan, and I was chatting with a guy from the Upper Peninsula for months and months, and we were going to meet up because he was moving back down to the Lower Peninsula. Anyway, I was broke and had a Ford Explorer that was so crappy. We called it the Exploder because it was breaking down like every other week. So I was literally like, well, I'll just rent a car and go meet you. I was literally in the Enterprise, just signed for the damn keys, and I get a message saying, oh no, sorry, I don't want to meet anymore. And I'm like,
that's it.
And I did like a sad little drive around my county, like, hey, what is going on? And I'm like, I'm too embarrassed to return the car.
Yeah, that's it. You're knocking on their front door and they're like, I don't want to hang out anymore. Are you from the UP?
No, so my dad's family is from Northwest Lower Michigan. So folks who are watching on YouTube.
From Kalamazoo?
No, actually from
Northwest
Lower, so Traverse City, Leelanau County.
I have family in Traverse City, and my mom, she went to Michigan Tech. So I need to go to Marquette now.
Oh no, totally. Oh my God, I love Marquette.
Marquette
is what Michigan. I was burnt out on Michigan. I had to leave Michigan. It was so homophobic for me, and particularly the area that I was in, and it was a disaster. Marquette. I'm not getting paid bonus points, folks, for saying this.
No, I brought it up.
That was the Michigan that I needed Michigan to be as a queer person.
I'm a Door County gay.
Ooh.
I just bring gay people to Door County. So I do that every other summer.
I have yet to get to Door County, but I've heard that it's like, because it's literally on the opposite side of where my county was in Michigan, Leelanau County. So it's like the cherries and the microclimate, but this one is like way more liberal.
Yeah.
And nice. So I'll have to make it out to
I get really, as you'll see by this play, I get stressed out when I'm around a lot of gay men. And so I like to bring a lot of gay men to like a Republican strongholds. So I like to do that. Although, as 60 Minutes point out, pointed out, Door County has voted president the most consistently out of any county in the U.S.
I thought it was a blue county.
It changes with every president, has been for years and years and years, decades. So it's like a purple county.
Yeah.
Ew. Well,
Yeah.
Marquette is a blue county. So anyway, I want to give a special shout out to for our Chicago listeners. One of the, because I'm running out of time, Jack Oleg in your show is a Chicago-based actor, and so I wanted to give a shout out to the folks who are in Chicago. You should drive up here and support Jack at the show, which is Only Ugly Guys. It premieres on September 11th at Gremlin Theater and runs through the 27th. For tickets and more info, you can head to gremlintheater.org, theaterre.org. Kurt, how can folks connect with you to stay up to date with this show and all the other shows that you've got coming out here?
They can follow Running Errands MN on Instagram. I also have a website, runningerrands.org. So that is my short play series and also my theater company title, which is abbreviated as RE, which is how a lot of theaters spell. So that's how we got the title.
Perfect. Kurt, I've really enjoyed talking to you. So officially, you're a friend of the show. I want you to come back and we can chat more.
I would love that.
All right, perfect. Folks, we're going to take a break here. We're going to have more of The Gailey Show when we come back. Keep the conversation going on Blue Sky. We're at thegaileyshow.org on Blue Sky. More after the break. From the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk where facts matter. Welcome back to The Gailey Show, the only daily LGBTQ radio news and talk show in America. I am your host, John Parker. It is 33 minutes after the hour. I first read our next guest book, Exile and Pride, Disability, Queerness, and Liberation, back in 2014. I was working at St. Paul College at the time, and it was so good. I partnered with the college's accessibility office to bring Eli to campus to share more about it and to talk with our students. And a year ago, this week, I had the great opportunity to reconnect with Eli through my podcast, The Square Book Saved My Life, where I learned that Eli had a new book coming out in 2025. It is called Unfurl. It will be on shelves all across the United States on September 16th, or at your door if you pre-order now. And we have links in the show notes and on our website for you to pre-order your copy today. Its author is Eli Clare. Eli works as a traveling poet, storyteller, and social justice educator. Since 2008, he has spoken, taught, trained, and consulted at well over 150 conferences, community events, and colleges across the United States and Canada. Among other pursuits, he has walked across the United States for peace, literally, coordinated a rape prevention program, and helped organize the first ever queer disability conference. He currently serves on the Community Advisory Board for the Disability Project at the Transgender Law Center and is also a Disability Futures Fellow, which is funded by the Ford Foundation and the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. Eli, it is so wonderful to see you again. Welcome to The Gailey Show.
It is great to be here. Thanks for having me again.
May I start with a sentence from your introduction? You write that memory, quote, memory unfurls into the present, past, future, a phrase I use with great intention. Unpack that sentence for me.
So let's talk about time. Let's drop into the heart of this book immediately. Let's talk about time. Let's talk about past, present, future. How in the white Western world, time is seen as completely linear. There's the past, there's the present, there's the future. Other places, other times, other cultures have had other conceptions of time. But I come from a culture that sees time as very linear, that doesn't create space for all the ways that past gets forwarded and present, how futures, future possibilities and future dreaming impact present, how ancestors from the past are talking to us about the future. I often think and throughout Unfurl work with time as an accordion rather than a straight line. So in the book, I'm always thinking of how does our past enter our present? How does our present impact what we need from the past? How does the past circle back through the future? And the memory part of that sentence, there's so much to say about memory and time and memory as past, present, and future all at the very same time. Memory is so contingent on so many things, including a conception of time. And I want to be really clear that I am indebted to a bunch of thinkers and artists, many of them Black feminists, for these ideas about past, present, future, about ancestors and dreaming. I want to name Adrienne Maree Brown, I want to name Alexis Pauline Gumbs, I want to name Audre Lorde, I want to name Leolactumi Pizza Semerenza. I'm indebted to all of those folks and more for all of what I've just said.
And this is a book that, and for folks on YouTube, you can see, just like with Exile and Pride, I've got sticky notes everywhere. But this was a book that you were writing for 7 years as you were developing that intention of memory and unfurling into the past, present, and future.
I write like a turtle. I've written 4 books. My last book, Growing in Perfection, I took 12 years to write. So 7 years seems moderate to me, but I'm like a turtle, you know. Other people write a book every year and they have for 2 years or 4 years. Not me. I need 7 8 years to write, but for better or for worse. And there's another thing about time, the pace at which different of us move and how material and social and spiritual conditions shape that pace.
Well, if we can get into different parts of your book, because there are at least 5 pieces that I would love to talk with you with. We are here with author Eli Clare, whose new book, Unfurl, is out in bookstores September 16th, and you are going to want to unfurl this. Maybe we can start with one that immediately resonated with me, which is Let Rebellion Be Our Song.
Right.
And it is a poem you have here, and it just, that first stanza, we who live in a nation lulled, sing with swamps and aquifers. Tell us about this particular, I'm sorry, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you to talk about particular pieces, if you can, but talk to me about Let Rebellion Be Our Song, that piece, what it meant to you as you were writing it.
So in some ways, that piece is becoming the signature piece of the book right now. Right now, when my job with this upcoming book is to nourish our capacity to rebel. to let our song, let rebellion be our song. So this is a poem I started 12 or 13 years ago. And I wrote many, many, many versions of the poem until it told me that I had found its shape. And one of the things I often say is that a writer who works really slowly over time and over many drafts means I have a faith in long, slow change because I see it at my desk as I am working with words. Let me say that again because I think we all need to have faith in long, slow change right now.
Mm-hmm.
So let rebellion be our song is half a call for action and half a love song. It's one part call to action and one part love song. It's a love song to the planet, it's a love song to cross species connection. And it's this belief in long, slow change, to cracks in the dam, to branches breaking the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm. I love how through all of these pieces, including Let Rebellion Be Our Song, how would you, I don't know if I'm characterizing this correctly, about how the earth, both in some specific aspects of it, but then as a totality is a character, is a person that you're speaking to. Am I characterizing that correctly? As like, how would you describe that and how you're speaking with and alongside and harmonizing with nature?
What I would say is that the book very significantly claims kinship between beings and claims porousness between a whole lot of divides that we take for granted. It claims porousness between what's seen as sentient and what's seen as non-sentient. I'm not sure that division even makes sense in this book. The book claims porousness between the human world and the more than human world. It claims important kinships with beaver and granite borders and wheelchair wheels and serious kinship. I mean, there's a love poem to a sugar maple. That's like a full-blown love poem. You know, where in the poem I write, I regret to report that we were never lovers. And I do regret that sugar maple tree and I were never lovers. So I'm just saying that these lines we take for granted are porous, are flexible, are malleable, and that the world needs us to embrace porousness and kinship.
This is why I was so excited to want to talk to you about this book. All of the things that you give us here in terms of, and I love the word that you use here, both in the introduction and in our conversation about nourish. There was another piece that I felt nourishing, actually, is We Wander the Castro Bewildered, 1985. I love how you also start with a historical note of how the poem takes place on October 21st, 1985. But can you tell us about that? Because you also get into some queer history here and connections.
Right. There's a lot of queer history in this book, partly because in the early part of the pandemic, I'd say in the first year or year and a half I was deep in writing the pieces that became this book during that part of the pandemic. And as someone who came of age in the early AIDS epidemic, so I turned 21 in the early 80s. And, well, no, I turned 21 in the mid 80s. I graduated from high school in the early 80s. The early, the COVID pandemic, the early years of the COVID pandemic took me back to the early years of the AIDS epidemic in this breathtaking way. And so I ended up writing about the early AIDS epidemic in two pieces, one of them being this piece about the Castro Street and Harvey Milk. And partly wrote them because I wanted to process them again through the lens of 30 years later, 40 years later. I wanted to end the poem you're talking about wandering the Castro. I needed.
Sorry, I hate to cut you off. I've got to fit in a break here. We're going to have more with Eli Clare when we come back. You are listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome back to the Gailey Show. We are coming up on the top of the hour. Eli Clare's new book, Unfurl, comes out on September 16th. He is here with us now. Eli works as a traveling poet, storyteller, and social justice educator. And since 2008, he has spoken, taught, trained, and consulted at well over 150 conferences, community events, and colleges across the United States and Canada. Eli, because of the break, I had to so rudely interrupt you as you were talking about your piece, We Wander the Castro Bewildered, and what that poem is building to at the end there. Do you want to pick it up there?
So I, as I was saying before the break, I was writing these poems about the early AIDS epidemic during the early COVID pandemic as a way of processing, as a way of just, what is the early pandemic is now history, but here it is, it feels so close. This is another way that time is an accordion here, that the early pandemic doesn't feel like history to me. It feels and it certainly felt during the early COVID pandemic, like it was right here with me. And this poem particularly was a poem where I was just trying to process the experience of being in the Castro in 1985 when news that Dan White, who was the man who assassinated George Moscone and Harvey Milk, there was a day in the Castro where the news came down that White had died, and White had died by suicide. And the poem is really another layer of processing how complicated that day was. Yeah.
There are so many pieces that I want to talk to you about. We've got about 5 minutes left here, and there was one that was really meaningful to me, which is the turning away from categories. And it's written in two sections. And if I can just quote from the first, I'll read the first two sentences if that's all right. In disability communities, we talk about the diagnoses that we use to name our bodies or that doctors assign to us, but we're more inclined to pass information about successful access hacks tell sweet stories about first dates, and exchange pain management strategies. Tell me about this particular piece.
So this connects back to porosity as one of the themes I'm exploring through the book. And so often we're creating categories that are rigid and act if they contain universal truths over a lot of time. Often the categories we create ask the beings that are being categorized to bend to fit the categories rather than vice versa. And so in the book, I'm suggesting that we don't necessarily throw out categories, although I am suggesting that once we get rid of the gender binary, that we shouldn't create another categorization for gender, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of genders. It's way beyond human capacity to categorize genders. But I'm not suggesting that we throw categories out entirely. I'm not even in the PC quote suggesting we throw diagnosis as a categorization system out. Sometimes diagnostic categories are so friggin' important, but I am suggesting that there are places and times in disability community where diagnosis isn't the connective tissue between us.
Mm-hmm. It was such a powerful piece for me. And maybe because we've been talking about time a lot here, maybe we can close with discussing we two-stepping through time. And
Right.
that was a really, I'm gonna sit with that one for a while here. Can you tell us about that one? We two-stepping through time.
We two-stepping through time. So I ask us to envision a time before the whaling ships set sail and the time after the oil wells have run dry. As if both of those exist right now. I ask us to imagine a time before ownership and the time after we've abolished money. So fiercely anti-capitalist, dreaming of the future. But the thing about two-stepping through time is I'm suggesting that all of that exists all at the same time, and we're two-stepping through and with that accordion.
That's why it's one of my favorite pieces in there. The book is Unfurl, comes out on September 16th. We have links for you to pre-order or order your copy, I guess, depending on when you're listening to this. You can head to our website or click on the link in the show notes, am950radio.com or heartlandsignal.com. You can also connect with Eli at his website, eliclare.com. That's CLARE.com. Eli, this has been such a joy. Thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom and your words with us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you everyone for listening and or watching today. You can keep the queer going all weekend long. On Saturday afternoon, it's Pride on AM 950, which means you can catch up on the best of the Gaily Show at 2 p.m. Twin Cities Pride Amplified is at 3 p.m. The Legal Trans Woman is at 4 p.m. And the Downright Upright Show with Philip Anthony closes out the afternoon at 5. 4 hours of the most comprehensive national and Minnesota LGBTQ news on the radio. On Sunday at 11 a.m. on WCPT 820, it's Out Chicago. It's Sunday Brunch with your gay best friends, Ellen Miller and Scott Duff. Until next week, keep it queer, America.